Thank you for joining the Overflow Podcast on this week's Roundtable discussion episode with our guests from the Inaxxs group, Andre Mullen, Drew Becks, and Richard Dauphin. Welcome to this week's episode of the Overflow Podcast. We are super excited. As always, my name is Joaquin.
And I'm Jake.
And we have some friends with us. Unfortunately, they're from New York, but we'll forgive them for that. We got one from Toronto. That's the only one we like. But
what are you talking about?
That's the only one I like. But we're here to talk about stuff. If I was smart, I would have been recording because, man, we had a lot of good stuff.
For real.
A lot of good content.
For real.
So, Jay, why don't you go ahead and, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go around the table. Everybody just introduce yourself.
But first, you know, to remind everyone,
yes,
we did say last week that we were going to try to do something special for this week, and
this is it.
Right?
So, if you really like it, send us $100 and partner with us for the
golden mic.
For the golden mic, for the RC plane that we're going to buy. All you got to do is bring the batteries, and you can use it as much as you want. So let's go ahead and let's go around the table, and let's. Well,
we're gonna
let's get these knuckleheads to
the guy he's been a part of the podcast already,
so
right?
We got the what do you call him?
The
CEO,
the Christian music CEO,
music Christian CEO. So let's go ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, man, you guys are amazing. It's funny. My name is Andre Mullen. I am the CEO and artist manager at the Inaxxs group, full service management company. Glad to be with you guys once again. So, yeah.
Yo, what's good? It's your cousin from the cold, Drew Becks, hailing from Toronto. I'm just happy to be here in the A with my homies. Just happy to be on the show, man, the Overflow Podcast. Let's get it.
What's going on, y'all? Richard Dauphin, straight ripping out of Brooklyn, New York, Christian hip-hop artist. And we here ready to have a good time here in the A.
Hold on a minute. What? So, are you a Christian hip-hop artist? Or are you an artist that's... Are you a Christian artist that's hip-hop?
Christian rapper artist? Are you a gospel...
I got you. I'm a Christian gospel child of God in hip-hop. Real talk, son. Straight up.
So you're not a rapper?
So you're just a fan then?
/ folk basketball player from the Bronx.
So basically, we got Richard from the block.
Richard from the block. Okay. Just not as good looking as Jenny from the block.
No, because it's Lil Richie.
Lil Richie
from the block.
Richie.
Hey,
it's Richie. Right? Where you from, Richie? Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. Son. You know where we at, son?
Yo, all right. So
anyway, it's a problem when you get a bunch of loudmouths. So go ahead and set up what these guys are going to be.
Right. So
about.
last week, I don't remember. Did we mention what it was about?
We did not.
All right. So
no, I did. We did mention the article
about the article with Lauren Daigle and what she said about wanting to break down the barriers between inspirational and mainstream music.
CCM and the mainstream.
Woo! Anyway, we'll edit that cough out. And I posted the question, right, about why is it that when a CCM artist wants to cross over to the mainstream, they're celebrated and they're encouraged, but when a CHH artist or a Christian hip-hop artist wants to do the same, they're demonized and crucified. So, as luck would have it, I'm sorry, we're Christians, we don't believe in luck. Right?
I mean, I wore my lucky underwear today, so I believe in luck because we're here tonight.
Right? As luck will have it, I think you got to pay AHA 50 cents for the use of that.
My holy pair.
So, as luck would have it, right, Dre, who's a podcast favorite and a friend of the show, was down here for A3C.
AC3, correct.
And A3C, you always get it
That's
wrong.
what I said.
Right, and he's got Drew Becks and Richard Dauphin, which are part of the Inaxxs group, and we were blessed with the opportunity to bring actual artists into the fold and into this conversation, and we're just going to have just an raw and honest conversation.
Correct.
About our opinion and how we feel about this whole thing.
But Drew, you know what I told you about the language, so keep it clean.
Right? You're gonna have.
Pardon my Canadian.
You gotta say it to the mic.
Pardon my Canadian.
Stop being so polite.
Right? We're gonna have Drew Becks and Richard Dauphin give us their side as artists, right?
Correct.
And then I guess Dre and I, as far as being in this industry for so long,
right,
as managers and being on the radio and all the other all the stuff that we've done together.
Correct.
And then Joaquin, who
will speak the truth and set them all straight.
set everybody straight.
And tell them the what's what and the what's not.
All right, so let's start this off with Dre.
Ooh.
Wow. I feel like I'm in a hot seat.
You are.
Yes, I get it. So this whole conversation about Lauren Daigle and her selling of 115,000 units in its first week obviously is a major milestone. Her decision to really a desire really to be able to bring more people to understand and know her music is commendable. I think it's something that most artists, especially in Christian music, should be embracing. And when I mean Christian music, I'm talking about inclusive of Christian hip hop. I think that should be a goal as artists to really be able to impact the culture at large. Now, if Lauren Daigle was a worship artist, i.e. similar to the Kim Walkers, the Planet Shakers, and artists that really did music that really ministered to the church, then I would say, no, sister, you got it wrong. You can't do that. Because
even with Tori Kelly doing like a straight gospel album?
Well, I mean, listen,
So she's doing it backwards, right?
Well,
she's from mainstream, breaking into.
But Tori Kelly is she's a Christian. She's a professed Christian.
But it doesn't matter. We're talking about business, right?
Okay.
We're talking about the industry.
So
from an industry perspective, right?
From the industry perspective, Tori Kelly doing a gospel project is nothing alarming, nothing surprising. I think it was inevitable.
Is it comparable to Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child?
Yes, I would compare. I would definitely compare. They both, Michelle Williams, Tori Kelly, I would definitely say are similar in star power. I would definitely say that. So for Michelle Williams to do a gospel album, fun fact, her husband's a pastor. Her fiance is a pastor, not a husband yet. So
speaking into existence.
Hey, look, they are. They're courting. They're engaged. So the comparison between Tori Kelly and Michelle Williams, that makes sense.
Right.
I think what makes Lauren Daigle this makes it such a big deal is because Lauren Daigle is an artist that pretty much has broken records as a Christian artist.
Right.
She's broken records. And, for her to say, hey, look, you know what? I want my music to impact people at large, obviously is doing that, it could be argued that, she just has a very strong white evangelical contingent that that do support her projects and say, hey, look, you know what, we're gonna get behind Lauren Daigle because her music just makes us feel good and it makes us it reminds us about the goodness of God, and it reminds us about how God is through our trials and and how God has allowed us to triumph, and that's all well and good. I think that which becomes a very compelling argument is, can Lauren Daigle do that because can she take this stance and can she move in that because there's a race card? Because when you flip it and as we were having in this discussion, if Christian hip hop artists played that card, we already know that hip hop is predominantly viewed as people of color music.
Right, but Kirk Franklin did it years ago. Right? Kirk Franklin was on gospel, and then he had the song Stomp that was played all over mainstream radio, and for a long time he was doing a lot of mainstream
see, here's the
stuff.
difference.
And that's straight gospel.
But here's the difference, though. See, gospel is still associated. So gospel is still associated and rooted in, or is an offshoot of R&B music and soul music. So it has it. So for Kirk Franklin to do a song with Mary J. Blige and R. Kelly and even Crystal Lewis, and Bono. That's still
for mainstream, because that same song he did it only with Crystal Lewis,
right?
For Christian radio.
So now that's what I'm saying. What you really see is within gospel music, like that's okay. That's okay because gospel music is an offshoot or an aspect of R&B, soul. It's permissible. Christian hip hop is, or just hip hop in general, is very defined, very explicit, very aggressive in its approach, in its delivery, in its stance, even in its boldness.
Or it used to be.
I was about to say it's defined by making bold statements.
Right. So what happens
or it used to be, because a lot of the new hip hop right now
a lot of it
is soft.
Right. But from fundamentally.
Right.
It's
still perceived that way.
It's still perceived that way. It still has machismo. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something where, you look at it like, oh, no, you're like, oh, like, it has a level of intimidation to it. So when you have an artist that says, a Christian hip hop artist that says, all right, you know what? I want to really impact mainstream hip hop. I want to really impact hip hop culture with this message, the message that, of the gospel, this, that, and the third. And I want to make my music reach those people. Then now what happens is you look at there's no point of reference as there is in gospel music, because the point of reference is R&B. The point of reference is soul music. So, gospel can kind of work within those. In hip hop, in Christian hip hop, the point of reference is its direct antithesis, which is hip hop. So you look at hip hop and you're like, oh, wait a minute, you want to impact who? You want to impact, you want to impact those people in hip hop. You want to reach the same people that Lil Uzi listens to, and Lil Pump, and you want to impact those people,
and Lil BLT and Lil everybody
you know what I'm saying?
else.
Exactly. So so at the end of the day, you want to impact those people. So how you going to impact those people? The only way you could, in a lot of people's minds, the only way you can really impact those people is if you be those people. See, that's what I'm saying. In gospel, you can be gospel because gospel is inspirational.
Right. And I would say that I think you said earlier, like, so maybe I misunderstood, but it was gospel, and then R&B came out of gospel, right? A lot of quote unquote black music, right, came out of gospel. Now, to kind of jump on, kind of strengthen that point, right? So now, when we're talking black artists, the majority, it seems like the majority of them, or a lot of them, right? Where did they get their start? Singing gospel in the church, right? I mean, you go as far back as you want. So I think, but then you said something interesting. Then you said, well, the white evangelicals or the white folk, right, support Lauren Daigle. Now, but with hip hop, let's just kind of say in general. I mean, the white folk are the ones that buy the majority of rap music,
right?
But I think you're right though. The problem that Christian hip hoppers are facing is that, and I said this to the guys earlier, I grew up with Christian hip hop, right? I grew up from like 1980. The very first rapper I ever heard was Michael Peace. Wow. Right? I still got his cassette somewhere in the house.
Fun fact: met Michael Peace at last year's KCA Awards.
You know, Michael Peace, then PID, then so.
Not rapping though.
And even then, he's too old. He's like 60. Oh, he's like 100 years old now. He was old. He was old when I first heard him.
Shout out to Michael Peace.
That's a bad. I remember I was at a youth thing. I think it was the Fox Theater actually. And when I heard him, I was blown away.
You saw Michael Peace live?
Yes.
Jesus.
Like it was like some youth thing. Wow. And I was just like, who's this dude?
We old, son. We old.
Well, one of us is a grandpa. I'm not gonna name names, Jay. But even then, right? Even within the church, gospel, Christian hip hop, gospel rap, however you want to kind of name it, even within the church, it always had its problems.
Right.
Right. I mean, in the black church, definitely had. Black church did not like it. I mean, that's why they ended up. And what was that?
I said still.
And still, right? I mean, that's why it's a weird thing, though, right? Because it's like, well, the white evangelicals, but that's where hip hop, Christian hip hop ended up going to.
So you know what so check this out. Then we would have to kind of step back a little bit, because then if we all can remember, not necessarily that we remember when hip hop started, but I'm just talking about as far as historically.
I'm that old. I was born before hip hop.
Like historically, when you look at it, remember hip hop wasn't necessarily birthed from disco. It was the antithesis of disco. Right. They were like, yo, disco.
Right.
That joint is whack. Like, yo, it's about the rhyme. It's about this. So hip hop has always been it's
rebel music.
It's rebel music. It's been the revolutionary music. So that's why, when you really look at it, yeah, practically every R&B singer, even out now, even the icons, have come from the church.
Right.
Have started in the church, have sung hymnals, have sang in choirs, have been part of gospel groups. And so a natural kind of, I guess, progression, if we could say, from gospel would be soul music, or as we can even come down a little more into more current and relevant times, neo soul music, R&B music. So you have that. Again, hip hop didn't have that. It doesn't have a predecessor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or I should say, it's something before it.
Not only that, but hip hop has always been seen as something from the hood. Right. As street music. Right. So people were doing it in the street, and then they try to bring it into the church, and the church wanted nothing to do with it. Right. Because I remember first doing hip hop like outreach stuff, and I had to do it outside because like no one in my church supported anything. I had to do it out in the street. Like I had to bring these rappers in from the Bronx, from Brooklyn, whatever, and do stuff in the street. Right, and we're talking about back in the day, back when Rap Fest and all this stuff was going on. Right,
shout out to Bert Chica.
Shout out to Bert. Bert's another podcast favorite, and who actually still listens to us. We haven't offended him yet. But the deal is this, though, right? To get things back on track. Lauren Daigle is basically a new artist.
Right.
She's only had, I think this is only her second album.
No, album number 3.
Is it number 3?
Yeah.
Right,
this is album number 3.
Then I only
discovered her
and all of them
have placed
album.
and all of them have placed on Billboard 200.
Right. But she's a baby.
Right.
She's a baby. She's a baby artist within industry terms,
standards,
right?
Yes.
So, right, and I'm gonna do this, right? And then we have then we have like Lecrae, right? Years ago, Lecrae said that he wanted, even before everything was changed in 116, everything was changed in Reach Records, and they changed the mission statement and all that. He's talked about wanting to do mainstream stuff, right? Working with mainstream artists. I'm not sure if Church Clothes came out before or after the mission statement was changed. I don't recall.
Which one? Which Church Clothes?
The first one.
The first one? The first one was before.
Right? And he was always criticized. He was demonized, right? And again, we'll get into this, the sense of ownership that the fan base has, the Christian hip hop fan base has, that secular music doesn't have or mainstream music doesn't have, right? But still, when he said it and he was making moves towards it, he was demonized. He was rejected by the mainstream, right? Because no matter what, he was still seen as a Christian artist. No matter how much he tries to fight that, he's still a Christian rapper, right? But the fan base and the industry, as small as the Christian music industry is, right, demonized him. But Lauren Daigle, right, and I'm not doing this as a race thing because I don't care about that, because I've done shows with Lecrae, and everybody, the majority of the audience in Reach shows, they're all white kids, right? So the thing is that CCM, and yes, CCM has been around for years more than CHH. And even when they first started doing it, they also had a lot of rebuttal, right? When Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, right? Michael English, right? So who else? Rich Mullins. Like when all these people were trying to do it, they had their problems. So I'm at a place now where I'm like, well, if you guys suffered and you guys basically like blazed the trail, then why are you like pushing back on these guys rather than being a place of wisdom or a source of wisdom and help and actually doing the same thing for them that you do for I'm confusing the acronyms. There you go. Thank you. CCM.
I think for the most part, I don't think the concern is that I don't think people mind. I think the thing is if a person that there's the fear of compromise. There's the fear of compromise. If you started out this way, if you get a big mainstream shot and your music still maintains that same integrity as an artist, I believe that you will be celebrated, or you should be celebrated for that, because you're not compromising. But the issue is on another level, historically, music that is, especially gospel music or music that is deemed of God or that celebrates God. Anytime when you hit a mainstream platform, you often are going to get that, why are you doing? You're compromising because you have mainstream success. You've seen it with Kirk Franklin. You'll see it down with Andre Crouch. Yeah. You'll see it down even to Mahalia Jackson, who's considered traditional now. But when she started out, she was like, don't be singing that blues up in here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now it's traditional. So now Andre Couches is being acceptable. That's old school. Now Karen Clark Sheards, they got a #1 hit. No, it's acceptable. Kirk Franklin, now it's acceptable. Now we're here with hip hop. We see the pattern.
But we have historically in music, you got the Jesus movement in the 70s, where everybody was thinking about Jesus, right? Christian artists and mainstream artists.
Yeah.
But the Jesus movement wasn't breaking into the mainstream, and the Jesus movement was getting a lot of grief from the church. Why? Because there were a bunch of long-haired hippies. So I think it's and they were bringing what? They were bringing kind of this folk rock into the church, when at that time it was like hymns. That's all that was. I think that, I don't think it's the industry. It's not the industry the industry is about making money at the end of the day. It's kind of like when people complain about Hollywood and they're like, Hollywood doesn't make Christian movies. Well, Hollywood will make a Christian movie, is going to make them money, right? And we've seen that with some of these big Christian movies that have come out. Why? Because it was making them money. I think CCM, GMAs, whatever, they want to make money. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line. The biggest push why these people don't break, I think, it's the fans. The fans push back because the idea of compromise, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there, because a lot of these artists start off one way, and then lyrically they start off one way, then they change their lyrics. And so the fans, what do the fans see? The fans think, wait a minute, you were talking about Jesus Redeemer, and now you're talking about something else. Well, that's the slippery slope that fans see. Well, wait a minute. So then what are you going to rap about next so you can get that big hit?
I think you made a good point, too, about the movies in Hollywood and all that. For example, I think about there was a time period when I guess Hollywood was seeing that there was money in these movies, so they made Noah. That wasn't made by Christians. That was made by I forgot the guy's name, but
he's an agnostic.
exactly. Aaron Aronofsky. No, I forgot who it was. Yeah. There was Noah. There was I never saw this movie, but I heard it was horrible. The one with Exodus, God,
right?
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
you had the Passion of the Christ, which was
Mel Gibson. You know what I mean?
10 Commandments.
So there was a time when these movies were coming out.
God's Not Dead, the first one.
And
Courageous. No, God's Not Dead. The first one made a lot of money. Courageous made a lot of money.
I'm talking about the ones that are not considered Christian movies, like they're Christian.
Oh, the Book of Eli.
Movies. Well, that too, but there was a pushback from the Christian community against those movies, partially because of the inaccuracies and all of that.
Right, but then
also because of the sense of as we
ownership
of ownership.
Right,
it's like, hey, we didn't. This is not ours. You
right,
know what I mean?
Nick Cage did the reboot of the Left Behind movie, and it was his first foray into Christian movies, and the pushback from, let's say, the church, right, for lack of another generalist term, but the pushback from the church was so harsh and so bad that he wants nothing to do with not just Christian movies, but with Christianity or the church or God or anything.
We're only hurting ourselves, right?
Right, and it's that ownership, because we talked about it earlier, how the fan base feel this entitlement or this ownership over their favorite artists.
Yeah.
Right? And they're loud. The Christian fan base is loud.
It's true. And we say that we want to, spread the message out there and all that. A movie like that comes out. It's not biblically accurate entirely, but it gets people thinking, hey, you know what? Let me go read the actual story of Noah in the Bible.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
Not only that, but when they see that it's done with a mainstream backing and mainstream money, right? Like A Wrinkle in Time. I hate the movie. Right? The book was an amazing book. It was a Christian book, but then they went and they did the movie and they took God out and all the things from the Bible out, and they made it into a movie all about the universe and the universe gives and the universe whatever, right? So people see the mainstream money or the secular money behind it, and they'll go see it, right?
So, all right. So what I'm hearing is here's the issue. I'm going to throw out the word, right?
Here we go.
It's not relevant.
Where's the censorship button?
The word is authenticity. All right, you thought I was going somewhere else, because here's what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm tracking it right. So when we're talking about movies, right? Noah, the movie Noah, I didn't even watch it because the trailers showed me it wasn't going to be garbage. If I want to watch Noah, I want to watch the biblical story of Noah, not whatever it is you think needs to be there. And that's why
not a movie with
pirates,
with talking rock creatures and pirates.
So
I think those rock creatures are actually from the Book of Enoch, I believe. The messengers, I don't know.
No, I read the Book of Enoch. No rock creatures.
No rock creatures. But
you got to read the Book of Enoch in Bible college.
So the Passion of the Christ made gobs and gobs of money, and it was an R-rated movie that Christians that will not go see R-rated movies went to see. Why? Because it was authentic. Right, Mel Gibson took care in telling the story.
Except for my mom. My mom wanted to see the bootleg.
She wanted to see the bootleg. So Mel Gibson, right? He was like, I want to make the passion, but it's going to be authentic. He's talking about making a sequel. Right? He's already talking about making a sequel to the Resurrection.
Right? No, he wants to make a movie out of the Book of Acts.
Right. Basically, he's talking. Yeah, he's saying we're going to continue the story. So it's not like Passion of the Christ 2. Well, it actually kind of is Passion of the Christ 2, the Resurrection. I'm
back.
Yeah, but here's what he said. He goes, we're taking our time with the script because we want to get it right. Right? Why does he? Because he wants to tell the story authentically, so that those people that will appreciate the story will come to see it.
So
with artists,
where's the lack of authenticity? In the artists or in the fans or in the product?
I think it's all around. I think that the artists are not being authentic when to how they started to be, how they started. If you start one way and then 5 years later, 8 years later, you do like a 90-degree turn. That, without any kind of explanation, without any, and it's just kind of like, hey, we're this, but now we're going to be this. and you leave the fans hanging, I think fans see that as being inauthentic. Wait a minute, you started one way. So and then fans do have ownership because Rich said what? He goes, a lot of artists, a lot of people are discipled by artists.
I'm speaking from,
which is not necessarily right.
Speaking from experience. I mean, I'm coming up as a new believer, and I'm addicted to hip hop. I'm a hip hop head. What do? They send me to a church where there's going to be rapping in the church. I saw it. I'm amazed because I'm seeing hip hop, but then I'm seeing Christ. So now I see a place where I fit in, because I didn't fit in with the suits and the ties. You know, I'm listening to Nas. So when I hear somebody like The Truth, I'm like, wow, I feel that I can be accepted. So when I start listening to those lyrics, the same way how I would listen to Nas or listen to Big or Wu-Tang, study those lyrics like sermons. Now I'm listening to something that's actually feeding my spirit. So I have a certain affinity for the truth. Even to this day, when I hear those old lyrics, it takes me back to where I was as a believer. And even now I feel like I'm a byproduct of that music and what that ministry meant in the music, you know? So even as an artist, it's in my music even now. Because the same way how I was impacted, I want to be able to impact others, you know? So to see somebody that I found, if I have an affinity for, that I buy in, and now I bought into their lyrics and it's helped me and edified me, to now see them get to a place where they have to represent the banner, because it was all about representing the banner and being bold. And now it's to the point where you see hints of inauthenticity and compromise. So now, of course, you feel some kind of way towards it, and that fear is kind of like
you feel betrayed.
Yeah, you feel betrayed. You feel like, hold on, as the same way you would kind of feel like your youth pastor, you know, who you feel as though he fell away from the faith. You're like, huh? What? Listen, you know, you get those feelings because of letdown and disappointment. So was it then a different story with NF compared to Lecrae? Because NF, the vibe I get is that everybody accepts NF.
Well, this is the thing with NF, having toured with him. NF was done dirty by his label, right? By the Christian label that he was under. He was like dirty pool, whatever you want to call it. So he left for a while, right? And now NF came back as part of this new breed of like sad rappers or angry rappers, right?
Angsty.
Right? Yeah, super angsty. But
I think of it as depressed.
Right? Also. But when he returned, because of the betrayal, right? Just straight up, the betrayal from the label, right? He came back just as a hip hop artist and didn't want to associate his name or his music to Christian rap or Christian hip hop.
But why did the fans forgive or not get upset about his transition?
Because he wasn't that big.
That's what I'm thinking.
He wasn't that big when he disappeared.
That's what
I remember hearing about him, like, because I saw like a video, and I remember thinking, yo, this kid sounds just like Eminem. And then all of a sudden, like a few years later, like he's all over the place. And he's you know, he's a Christian, but he, you know, and it's in his lyrics or whatever, but he's just doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think
when he
came, Lecrae started that way too. If he started
right
how he is now,
yes,
it would have been fine.
I think so.
Right. When he came back, when NF came back, he came back, you know, doing stuff in secular places or non-Christian places and with non-Christian artists. Right. So he would do like the Creation Fest tour, with Juice and I, right? On the stage, and in between festival stops, he'd be like in LA opening up for Tyga, right? So he was already in that realm, and then still trying to do stuff here. And then the difference with NF, though, ready? The difference with NF that rubs the fans wrong, well, that other Christian artists do, is that NF from the jump never called himself or considered himself to be a Christian rapper or a Christian artist. He mentions his struggles because of his mother's addiction and his turn to God because of all that. But a lot of these cats came out of the church, right? Doing gospel hip hop, doing Christian rap. doing stuff with, in the churches.
Holy hip hop for life.
And then, right, exactly, holy hip hop. And then turned around and basically like crapped on their fan base by saying, well, no, I'm not a Christian rapper. It's like, dude, like you spent 20 years or let's say like 10 years doing nothing but Christian rap. We invested, like Richard said, we invested in you, our money, our time, our money, right? Because of album sales and ticket sales to shows. They're not cheap. You know what I mean? And then you turn around and you just like you mush us. Well, mush is a New York thing. What is it? Like you
Snuff.
Right?
You murk us.
Right?
You
and
murk
that's
us
the thing.
in our hearts.
That's that betrayal. And when Joaquin and I were talking about this last week, CCM artists that go into the mainstream, they take their fan base with them. They don't crap on their fan base, right? They take the fan base with them. Their fan base will continue to buy their music, will continue to go to their shows. Well, it's like Jackie Velasquez. Jackie Velasquez was a little girl, Christian music, and then she went and she broke out doing Spanish music, right? And then her Spanish music, she was doing the same music, right, with Spanish artists that was being played on Spanish radio, right? But she took the fan base with her, right? The same songs that she would do in Christian music and Christian radio would be played on mainstream radio, right? They take the fan base with them. Amy Grant took her fan base with her. You know what I mean? But the Christian rappers, right? These CCH guys, they want to reject CHH guys. They want to crap on their fan base.
But you know what? Here's an interesting point with that is that I think I agree with you 100% that CCM artists take their fan base with them. I think what happened is that most of, if not all of, the fan base of Christian hip hop came from hip hop. And you have Christian hip hop artists saying, all right, look, I'm going back over there. Or I'm changing this direction and I need you guys to come with me. And they're like, no, bro. Like, we just came from that.
Yeah, we left that.
We left that. Now you want to take us back to Egypt, Moses? Like, what's happening? Like, we ain't trying to go back. So there is this, first off there, obviously, there is the ownership that Christian hip hop, the Christian hip hop audience has for Christian hip hop artists, because guess what? At the end of the day, they look at Christian hip hop artists as, hey, you saved me. Your music saved me, which obviously is a very dangerous perspective and obsessive, perspective to have, because now obviously, now you get into idol worship, you know what I'm saying, on so many levels. But with that being said, the problem that now occurs is that it comes down to, at least from where, in my opinion, it comes down to a motive situation. So what's the motive of wanting to, quote unquote, reach more people? Is the motive to reach more people to make more money? Or is the motive to reach more people pure? Now, obviously, at the end of the day, none of us here can sit and judge that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I mentioned in the conversation the other day, is that, look, none of us can judge anyone's heart.
I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be that guy, right?
Go ahead.
You say that, and you're right. We can't judge the situation, but can we not judge it if you make that turn and you say, I want to reach more people, whatever, and little by little, Jesus is disappearing from your music,
no, we can.
and from your lyrics,
we can.
and from your content. Everything having to do with God and the church is disappearing from your music.
We all know that we have the ability, the authority. We are delegated to judge fruit. We could do that. So obviously, if you tell me that, yeah, man, I'm just doing it to reach more people, but meanwhile back at the ranch now, I hear you talking, I hear you. We hear a bleep of an F-bomb. in your song because you're like, hey, I'm trying to reach more people, trying to get them to relate and understand. No, that's not how you relate and get them to understand. What that does is that just continues to confuse people, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, look, if you don't reach people by being the very thing that you are in every essence of the word, are saying they can be better than.
And I think one of the main points of contention is not only the content of the songs changing or whatever, but the association. One of the main ways that Christian artists have kind of displayed that they're trying to cross over is by collaborating with artists from that, like non-Christian artists. Artists who, when you go and listen to their catalog, that shouldn't be like Christian, like that's not for Christian ears.
Right.
It's vile stuff. So I think that's where a lot of the problem comes in, where it's like, okay, you are collaborating with darkness or people that celebrate certain things that we don't, you know what I mean?
But then here's the irony. I mean, how many times have we hear from people that follow Christian hip hop, are advocates of Christian hip hop, but will sit and have a discussion about
the new
Ye's new album, J. Cole's new album. Yo, I like M's album. Like, I read those things, and listen, I'm not sitting here judging. Hey, look, man, music, for me, music is music. I know I just offended some saints, but at the end of the day, listen, I'm in the music industry.
I'm gonna push it even further. Ready?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna push it even further. You offended saints? I'm gonna push it even further. Right? There is no such thing as Christian music. Right? Music does not repent and accept Jesus into their lives. Right? There's no such thing as Christian music. There's music.
Right.
Right? And there's musical content.
Right.
Right? And I agree with Drew when he said that about, light and darkness, sharing space and having fun times together, because that's true. Like, a kid that's never heard of this secular artist before, because his parents are only getting him music by gospel artists or by Christians, all of a sudden gets on Spotify and looks up, well, if this person co-signs, then let me check them out. I've always had an issue with that, but right, again, it's the content. It's the content, because in the Spanish music realm, a lot of Christian artists do songs with like other artists, right? But it's content, right? Jackie Velasquez did a song with Luis Fonsi. Luis Fonsi, what's he sing about? He sings about love and being in love, right? With the exception of Despacito. Right? With the exception of Despacito, right? But still, like, you look up his library and it's all love songs, right? So, and in hip hop, sadly, in hip hop, you ain't gonna find that.
Right.
Right? Yeah, you're just not gonna find that, right? And the thing is, right, and I'm tired of the compromise. The compromise being, well, if we don't do this music with these artists, or if we don't do this music for the mainstream, then how do we reach, non-Christian listeners, right? And on the Overflow podcast, we say, you reach those non-Christian listeners when the music's off, when the mic is down. You build those relationships, you make those connections, right? Because I've never heard anybody say, hey, that song that you did with all the cursing or whatever, that changed my life for the better. I was in a real bad place, and, and I heard your song. No, but they'll listen to a gospel artist or Christian artist do a song and say, yo, your song pulled me out of a dark place, right? Your song really helped me, whatever situation I was going through. You know what I mean? And that's all across the board, not just hip hop, rock, whatever it is, whatever genre it is that you want to use your talent and your gifting, right? It's all across the board. I don't see how somebody's going to tell.
But that's the one of the amazing things that I've always marveled at this is the amount of pressure that we put on Christian artists, that we put on, and I'll even go here, that we put on artists that are Christians. The amount of pressure that we put on them, the amount of pressure that comes from, hey, your music has to be A, B, C, D, because if it's not this, then not that, it's not even so much anymore that it's not Christian. Yo, we question whether you're a Christian. And it's like, look, hold on. This is a little extra right now. Just because I didn't say Jesus for you 5 times in this song, and I didn't quote, scripture, chapter and verse, is not a reflection on my personal relationship with God. That does not do it. Now, again, the only way that we can really even judge that is by fruit. I'm not going to be sitting here and trying to figure out, because Lauren Daigle says, hey, I want to reach more people. Oh, wait a minute. Is she really a believer? That line of thinking, there's something wrong with that line of thinking. And that's what I really believe that we have to really look at and say, wait a minute, hold up. Jesus said that we are supposed to be the salt of the earth. We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. We are supposed to be making people thirsty for what and who we actually are in God,
And I just even want to second that, but I think what you said, I agree 100%. Artists are on pedestals, and even myself as an artist, whether I like anybody in the public eye, whether you stand for Christ, listen, if you are a basketball player, LeBron James can't say, I'm not a role model. Because regardless of what, he's looked up to by people. So anytime when you're in a public platform, people will admire you whether you want to or not. You don't have to ask somebody's permission to be admired. You just are, period.
Yeah, don't seek the limelight. Because I rhyme tight. No, don't seek the limelight. Bars. Facts. Don't seek the limelight and then turn around. So don't seek the limelight and turn around and tell me, hey man.
Yeah, don't look at
me.
Don't
look at me.
Don't look at me.
Wait a minute.
Don't look at me.
You just told me to look at you.
Don't look at me.
But even as believers, on the flip side to that, we have to realize we have this judgmental condemnation gun ready to shoot at anything that is of error, as if we're clean and that we're spot and we're wrinkling.
Right.
And if the standard is anybody that's singing before God has to be perfect and can't make any mistakes, then if that's the case, can we stop reading the Psalms?
Yeah.
Can we stop reading and quoting Psalms? Can we stop reading this Bible?
Stop reading Song of Solomon.
Everybody, can we stop? Let's throw away this book that we already. Because everybody in that book, outside of Jesus, have fallen, have dropped the ball. But it's a story of redemption.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think as believers, we lack redemption. We love redemption for ourselves.
Correct.
But we quick where is grace for anyone else?
Right. We're
Where's
quick to say, hey man. I'm falling.
I'm just human, bro.
I'm human.
But
now, what about though? It feels like, so I was thinking like Switchfoot, right? They started in the Christian realm, and they broke out into the mainstream. They never said others labeled them Christian rock.
Right.
And John Foreman at one point said, "Listen, Christian is what I live. Whatever. It's not a genre. Blah 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 blah." He got some pushback, but they've always done the same kind of music,
right?
And I think that's. But now, have they had people that have criticized them? Of course, everyone does, right? I mean, you can't escape that. But they maintain who they are from the very beginning. And I think that I think that's the part of the problem is that artists want to come out because they're trying to capture this audience that is easy to, right? Christian music in general is an easy audience to capture. So you come in one way, down the line, you flip, and then you say, well, wait a minute. Don't judge me, because you sold yourself one way to an audience.
You know what? It's funny because when I came up, and I wasn't born and raised in church. I wasn't born and raised in church whatsoever. I got saved in my college dorm, gave my life to the Lord, and God called me out to this ministry of hip hop.
Uh-oh.
You know what I mean? Straight up. you know, and going out. No problem. I want all the smoke. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, in doing that, I remember
Hip hop's not a ministry.
I remember I had an issue with the fact that when people would call me with the label of Christian hip hop, the reason why I had an issue with it, because in my mind, I know who I was writing for. I was writing to reach the people that were just like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was writing to reach that hip hop head that was just like me. I was writing to reach everybody on the campus, on the college campus that I was smoking with. I want to go out and I want to reach them with the gospel.
With the gospel. And that's why it was Christian hip hop. Right?
But the reason why I didn't like the term Christian hip hop, because I'm not trying to reach Christians. In my interpretation of it.
Right.
I'm not trying to reach Christians. I didn't know they were rapping the church. I didn't know they was rapping. I was rapping in clubs. I was rapping in the Peppers Club, SOBs. That's where I was at. It was only until I was introduced to see that there was a hip hop church. Whoa, I can rap in here. That's when my eyes and I was exposed to it. But it was never an intention to edify the body.
See, but you know what? And see, I think that has always been. That's always been my issue with Christian hip hop, is that, again, and really Christian music in general. Christian hip hop specifically, but Christian music in general. As I've said before, you guys this is the first time I think I'm sharing it publicly, but when I say this, it's sad that Christian music speaks about a inclusive God with exclusive conditions. We say, hey, come to the Father, come to Jesus. He loves you, blase, 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 blase. Wait, but however, we have to make sure that you fit these 48,000 criteria first. That's where it becomes a very serious issue, because now you have people there's people that genuinely will say, wow, man, I just love your music, because in their mind it's positive. Right. In their mind, it's like, yo, I just like it because, man, it's a positive outlook on life. You know, it's uplifting, it's encouraging. And then you're really actually saying, or what the Christian hip hop community is really saying, but it's not for you because you're not a believer. It's not for you because you're not a believer.
Right. But what's funny though is that that's just a reflection of church. That's a reflection of Jay's church when he grew up in. Hey, God is inclusive, but if you don't wearing a tie, if you
don't got this,
if you don't got this, that, the other.
But and also now, hey Jay, we're all 100% behind you to start a church, but you're divorced, so we can't really help you out.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I was, what thought ran through my head when you're talking about people calling you, they were saying, oh, you do Christian hip hop. And in your mind, you're like, no, I don't. I do hip hop for the people that I used to be with. I'm going to float this out there. Uh-huh. It's because this is what came into my mind, right? Who are the first people to use the term Christians?
The Romans.
It was a derogatory term.
But why, right? And why did they say that? They said, well, these people, right, they're distinctive. And it was derogatory, but it was because they were distinctive in how they were living and how they were interacting with society. So maybe that's what we should be, maybe that's the way we should try to communicate to people. Say, listen, if someone says you're a Christian hip hop artist, don't look at it as a bad thing. It just means that you're distinctive, you're flavoring. Because you just said,
well, being a Christian hip hop artist, doesn't necessarily mean you can't be like being a Christian rapper.
Right.
It doesn't disqualify you from being a rapper. Like being a gangster rapper.
Rap. The 5%ers, they didn't reject.
I'm a 5% rapper.
Right? Right? They didn't reject their label.
That's true.
No, but what I'm saying though is that, like, if you look at like at hip hop, right, you had like the whole 5%ers and all that stuff. But they didn't go, well, no, don't call me a 5%er. No, that was all in them.
Yo, but see, and
Right?
and you're right. That was all in their music.
That's all in their music.
They read the mathematics and the whole bit all in their
Right,
music.
but- and there
Pete
were-
Rock and CL Smooth. Yo, Pete Rock. Oh my gosh. His whole Mecca and the Soul Brother. The whole thing in that whole song. There are songs where CL Smooth calls out Allah in song, like straight up in the song.
Wu-Tang now.
Yeah,
That's a whole
Wu-Tang.
nother.
Yeah.
So now if cats wanting to be like the seculars rappers, right? Well, the secular rappers aren't ashamed of who they are.
Nope.
Who was it? Was it Shylin? Where he talks? He had a song where he talks about people telling him that, well, you're always rapping about Jesus and you're rapping about Christ. He was like, well, you're rapping about money, and you're rapping about sex, and you're rapping about. We're all preaching something, right? We're all preaching something. So I think what's interesting to me as a non-artist, just as a fan, is that I think where hip hop, the Christian hip hoppers fail, is that they're more caught up, it seems like, in the label. No one would. I mean, if I said, I wonder with some of these guys, I just sometimes hearing what they say, I wonder if I walked up to them in a public place full of a bunch of different kinds of people and say, "Hey man, are you a Christian? Are you a Christian?" Would they? Nah, man. I mean, I believe in Jesus, but I'm not a Christian because Jesus wasn't a Christian. Right? That line drives me insane. I will punch holes in walls. Jesus, of course, Jesus wasn't a Christian. He's Jesus. He's the one who started it. Dummies. But you understand the point is that what is it about? It's almost like there's a shame to it.
Right.
Now I get it. I get it because way back in the day there was some, like you had your SFCs, you had your PIDs, which were dope, and then you had like your JC Crews, which were not.
Right.
So I get it.
What I've experienced, especially starting out, and I'm coming from a place where I was ignorant of the genre. I ain't know the genre. I was just doing what God led me to do. You know what I mean? So I didn't know about Christian rappers, didn't know about the other industry. I'm just doing what I've been called to do.
Right.
And then being obedient and going into these circles. So when I would get up there and rap, when next rapper is MC Kill Your Mother, you know what I mean? Coming next, we got you know what I'm saying. Then we got next we got Richard Dauphin. I get up on stage and I do my songs unapologetically. I'm all about the Lord, all about the word, and I'm all about reaching souls. And people will get on something. Yo, I respect that. I appreciate that. Yo, that was real. That's that consciousness. They was like, yo, that's that power music. That's that spiritual consciousness. This is all I'm getting. You know what I'm saying?
It's like that, right? Because like when you gangbang, right? When you're in a gang and you're whatever, and then you accept Christ, you come to the Lord, you start going to church, and you go back to the gang. You're like, I'm believing in God now. Like they don't jump you out. They don't get mad at you. Like they actually support you and they push you back to church. And you try to go back to the block and hang out with them. It's like, yo, what you doing here, man? Yo, ain't you believing in God now? Yo, you go back to the church, man. You don't need to be out here in these streets. Like it's crazy. And then you come into the church and you're like, yo, I'm gonna like, nah, you can't do that though.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
Nah, son, you need to chill. You can't do that. It's crazy. It's crazy to me because, all right, putting my pastor hat on with the Yankee cap, with the Yankee logo, right? Shouldn't we, right, as kingdom, shouldn't we applaud anybody that's trying to use their gifting to reach people that wouldn't necessarily walk into a church or go into a Christian event, festival, concert, or whatever, right? Let's be honest. We're all guys here. A lot of us went to churches or went to Christian things because of a girl or girls, right? Like, so, right? Right?
Nope, never happened.
I only went because I love Jesus.
Right? But
Listen,
still.
if I'm going to be humiliated in my high school with the girls, why would I go to a Christian event to be humiliated by Christian girls? No thanks.
Right? But as kingdom, shouldn't we applaud and support and even pray for all these people that are doing the things that not everybody can do, going into the places that not everybody can go.
But you know what? Our issue is with that is, I think the issue is that, again, we have preconceived notions and
preconceived judgments
and judgment about how that should be. So you can sit there and tell me, well, God told me to go to the strip club to go minister. Oh well, I don't know about that, brother. Maybe you.
That's funny.
You know what I'm saying? We don't know about that, brother.
Girls don't reject Joaquin in strip clubs.
Why would God tell you?
But it's like when I was a youth pastor in New York. They're like, "Hey, Jay, can next Sunday we're gonna go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade to give out Bible tracts?" No, you're not. If you don't go out to Manhattan any other Sunday to do anything, you're definitely not going just for the Puerto Rican Day Parade.
What I'm saying is that at the end of, I think that again we have these preconceived notions about how it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to look, what are you supposed to do, where should it be. Now, granted, there are some non-negotiables. Yes.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not. Don't get it twisted.
But,
I'm not necessarily. Now listen again. If I'll use what Joaquin said about and what you referred to and what we refer to about fruit. Hey man, listen. If you tell me God told you to go to a trap house and reach people, then I'm expecting a move of God there.
Yeah, amen.
Correct. I can honestly say, man, if you tell me, God put on my heart really to go to the trap house. He told me this is what he told me to do. If you share it with me, he told me, hey man, listen, just go there. He wants me to go there every Friday. Bring them food. Bring them some blankets. Bring them and really serve the people there, bro. Listen. Who can argue with that? Because that lines up. That's lining up.
That lines
Bible.
up with Scripture, right?
That's lining up Bible.
But my question is, shouldn't the same amount of grace that is shown and given to the CCM artists also be given to the CHH artists?
It should be, but like I said earlier, too many people have come from the hip hop world. They've come from the hip hop world. They ran from the hip hop world and ran into the church, found Christian hip hop, which ironically, when it was really started, the fundamental concept and purpose and drive of gospel rap
was evangelism. Yeah, like
so
the first
it wasn't
Bible
about,
break.
It wasn't about, we got these guys coming in. They threw out their Kanye West CDs and now they're looking for a Christian alternative. You know what I'm saying? But if I go there,
like no lie. Back when I was rapping, and I went to to Kansas. Shut up. I went to Kansas to a college out there, and drove the 18 hours to be told to get like the dude laughed in my face. It's like, wow, you actually came. It's like, yeah, I canceled that a long time ago. We're not doing anything, right? And not to punch him in his face. Me and my guys started walking around the neighborhood, and we found this rickety old church, right? And we walked in, and they just happened to be doing a youth conference, right? And they allowed us to perform there. They allowed me to preach there. And then, no lies, like everybody who's here, if you got like a Knucklehead CD in your car, and you bring it in, we'll swap out your Knucklehead CD for one of ours. And like we gave away all our CDs, right? That's what, and that's real, that's real talk, right? Because a lot of people who, like you said, ran away from hip hop, right, are looking for that clean alternative that will help them with their walk.
I think part of the problem is that we don't, like in a lot of things in life, we don't have an appreciation from where we came from.
Right.
CCM started because you had a bunch of hippie kids that got saved, stopped doing drugs, stopped doing the whole free love movement stuff, and they needed music that was going to edify them, and they needed music that was going to bring them closer to God. Christian hip hop, whether you want to call it holy hip hop, gospel rap, was that?
I said all of the above.
All of the above, like you said earlier, right? It was because hey, we see what's happening in our community. We see what our community is listening to, so we're going to bring the message of Jesus in a way that our community can understand. I think that's we don't appreciate that. These newer cats don't appreciate it because they don't know it. That was part 1 of the roundtable discussion with the Inaxxs group. Please Join us on part 2. See what we got to say here on the Overflow Podcast at theoverflowpodcast.com.